All right, what's up, guys? Farzin Vasugian here with you tonight. Happy Red Friday to all of you. Hope you're all having a great Christmas holiday week. Let's do it. Let's do an episode of the Red Friday live chat. I can't recall the last time I did one of these between being sick and being on vacation and a million other things in between, but we are back. We are back. Yes, feels good to be back. Appreciate you guys joining me live tonight. I know it's a holiday week, so you guys all probably have millions of things to do this week. So I appreciate everyone taking the time to join me tonight on the Red Friday live chat. You guys know how this works. Ask whatever question you want. All topics are fair game, though a majority of them do revolve around the Chiefs. We do get some non-Chiefs questions and there's some NFL questions, so always down to talk about that. So whatever is on your mind, that is what the Red Friday live chat is all about. I'm going to start things off here and talk about the Kansas City Chiefs clinching the number one seed. And I think the timing of it, the way they did it, I think is something that deserves a lot of attention right now. Because what was the concern with the Chiefs? Oh, they're not scoring 30 points. They're not blowing teams out. They're not playing very well up front at the offensive line, specifically at the tackles. Well, what do the Chiefs do? They decided to do something about it. They go and get DJ Humphries. Well, unfortunately, Humphries, in his first game back, didn't look great. It was his first game back. It's a guy, you could tell he was someone that had not played in quite some time. But then he gets injured, and he's been out of action for quite some time now. 3 games, I think he's missed since joining the Chiefs. He only played 1 game. Couldn't even play a complete game. So the Chiefs go ahead and shift Joe Thuney to left tackle. They did that in the Black Friday game against the Raiders, but they wanted to have DJ Humphries be the permanent left tackle to finish off the season. But unfortunately, injuries had other plans because that's just been a thing this year for the Chiefs. And that has worked out really well against the Browns. No sacks allowed. There were a lot of pressures in that game, but the Chiefs figured it out when they played the Texans and the Steelers. And these were the 2 games I was very concerned about because the Texans have 2 really good pass rushers in Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. Those guys are both top 10 in the NFL in sacks and tackles for a loss. Not a good matchup if you're Kansas City. And then 5 days later, you play the Steelers, who have a really well-rounded defense. And they've got TJ Watt, who does not need any introduction or any explanation whatsoever about why he's so good. But the Chiefs, they figured out what to do in that game. They completely shut him down. And that was Juwan Taylor, not Joe Thuney, going up against TJ Watt. So for the Chiefs to play as well as they have these last 2 games, that's a really good sign. And even some of the doubters out there like Rex Ryan, I mean, he's been pretty notorious for speaking against Kansas City. He put both hands up and he has surrendered that battle. He is on the Kansas City bandwagon. And why wouldn't you be? The way they've played these last 2 games. Because again, people are talking about, oh, the Chiefs aren't blowing anybody out. Okay, well, I mean, they didn't necessarily blow the Texans out. That was a 1-possession game. But it didn't feel like at any point the Texans were threatening to take that game away from Kansas City. And then against the Steelers, Patrick Mahomes had his best game. I thought the Texans game, that was the best game of the year for the Chiefs, and Andy Reid even said so right after the game. The Chiefs followed it up 5 days later with an even better performance. Keep in mind, the Chiefs played 3 games in the span of 11 days, and all 3 of those teams they went up against have great pass rushers. Myles Garrett, you guys all know about Myles Garrett, reigning Defensive Player of the Year. Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson on the same team. I would love to have those 2 guys on my defense any day of the week. And then you have TJ Watt, another guy that everyone would love to have on their team. Those are the 4 pass rushers, the 4 edge rushers the Chiefs have gone up against in the last 3 games in the span of 11 days. And the Chiefs hardly had any issues, specifically, especially in the last 2 games. So Kansas City offensively playing much better football these last 2 games compared to the rest of the year. And Patrick Mahomes just came off his best game of the season against the Steelers, throwing for 320, 29 of 38, 3 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks in this one, hardly faced any pressure in this game. And The Steelers just had no answer whatsoever. Here's another thing about the Texans and the Steelers. They are both, not only do they have top 5 edge rushers on their teams, the Texans and the Steelers are both top 5 in the NFL in takeaways. Kansas City has not committed a turnover during this winning streak they're in right now. 6 games in a row they've won. I'm looking at Patrick Mahomes' stat line real quickly here because he threw 2 picks in the Buffalo game. But when you look at the last, 7, 8, 9 games, in the last 9 games, Patrick Mahomes has only thrown an interception in one of those games. What were people talking about the first 6 weeks? Oh, Mahomes throwing too many picks. Okay, well, where is that crowd now? They're not saying much about Patrick Mahomes' stat line. Nobody's talking about Patrick Mahomes and the turnovers and all these things. The Chiefs, outside of the Buffalo game, or since the Buffalo game, I should say, no turnover since then. 6 games in a row. That is a very difficult thing to do. 6 games in a row, no turnovers. And it's not like the Chiefs are playing, small ball, keep away, that kind of thing. Play it safe, play it smart. No, they're not doing any of that. This is a team that's, Patrick Mahomes in this game against the Steelers and against the Texans, he threw the ball in some tight windows that we have not seen him attempt in quite some time, honestly. Patrick Mahomes, you can tell he's throwing the ball with a lot more confidence, a lot more swagger, a lot more zip on those passes as well. His confidence is at an all-time high right now with this offense. And it certainly helps with DeAndre Hopkins. When you look at Patrick Mahomes' stat line since DeAndre Hopkins joined the Chiefs, it's far better than it was the first 6 games. Xavier Worthy is playing much better football, and I'll get to Xavier Worthy shortly. Hollywood Brown is back. I think that has certainly helped. His first reception was on a 4th down play. And Kansas City has not been shy going for it on 4th down recently either. They have definitely not been afraid. They went for it twice against the Texans, failed once. And against the Steelers, they went for it and converted then. So the Chiefs not afraid to go for it. 3rd down was pretty bad for Kansas City. That's the one big issue I had with the Chiefs is the 3rd down efficiency. They were 3 of 10 against the Steelers. They're the best in the NFL this year. And they certainly slipped on that against the Steelers. But they found a way to do a good job on 1st and 2nd down. So you'd like to think the Chiefs would be better about 3rd down moving forward in the playoffs. I think ultimately having that number 1 seed, having that postseason bye and home field advantage, that is going to go a really long way for Kansas City. Absolutely. By the way, for those of you who are here, I see the comments. I will get to the comments. If you guys have any questions, comments, whatever's on your mind, Chiefs related, NFL related, whatever you want to talk about, please ask those questions below and I'll get to those shortly. Let me just get these other 2 topics out of the way because I mentioned Patrick Mahomes playing much better. Part of the reason is Xavier Worthy. He is playing much better in the last 5 games. And let me go ahead and put that up on the screen for you guys because just talking about it does not do justice. I have to put it on the screen for you guys to see here. Look at this game against the Buffalo Bills. He had 4 catches in that game. He only had 4 catches once before the Bills lost. That was in Vegas against the Raiders. So when you look at Xavier Worthy, these last 7 games, his numbers in terms of receptions either keep going up or at the very least do not go down. So we had 4 catches against the Bills. That tied a single season high for him. Had 4 against the Panthers. Then against the Raiders on that Black Friday game had 5. Had another 5 against the Chargers. So that, tops another single season high for him. Or single game high for him this season. And then against the Browns, again, improvement there. 6 catches. Against the Texans, 7 catches. And then against the Steelers, 8 catches for 79 yards. Both single game highs for his rookie campaign. Xavier Worthy's playing much better lately. I know the deep passes have not been there for Kansas City yet. They've only connected once on a deep shot, and that was against the Chargers in week 4, I believe. That was a game where Rashee Rice got hurt. Kareem Hunt played his first game back with the Chiefs. But man, I just love looking at these numbers here with Xavier Worthy. Getting more and more receptions every game, every other game, it feels like. But the last 3 weeks, numbers have gone up. This is a guy that Kansas City is going to be relying on a lot in the postseason. And by the way, let me go back and show something else to you guys. Going back to that Chiefs-Steelers game, look at the receiving stats in this one as I pull it up real quickly here for you guys. Okay, look at this. What do you notice here? DeAndre Hopkins had just 2 catches for 7 yards. Why did he have just 2 catches for 7 yards? It's not because he sucks. That's not at all the case. The reality is, unless you're running a snap, running a play on every single second of the game, which is virtually impossible, you're just not going to be able to feed everyone statistically. Travis Kelce had 8 catches for 84 yards. Xavier Worthy had 8 for 79 yards. Both of them had a touchdown, by the way. Watson only had 2 catches, but they were 2 big ones. Had that 49-yard reception, and then the other one was a touchdown grab on the same drive. Hollywood Brown got involved a little bit, 4 for 46. Samaje Perine had a couple of big catches for the Chiefs. Juju got involved a little bit. Hopkins, like I said, just 2 catches for him. Come playoff time, again, you see DeAndre Hopkins, just 2 catches. Well, come playoff time, we might see a stat line where Hopkins has 8 catches and Hollywood Brown has 8 catches, but Xavier Worthy might have just 4 and Travis Kelce might have only 2. That's okay. Listen, you're not going to be able to feed everyone statistically, like I said a minute ago. But this is why you went and got Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy. I know Xavier Worthy was probably brought in partially because of the fear that Rashee Rice might be suspended this year. Unfortunately, he got hurt, so it does make the draft pick even better now because you're utilizing Worthy a lot more now, and he certainly showed a lot of improvement. But the trio before the season, which was Worthy, Hollywood, and Rice, the big difference is you swapped out Rice, who's on IR right now, for Hopkins. This is what you were expecting all year long. This is the unit you wanted to go with coming into the season, and that Travis Kelce was going to have a lot of pressure off of his shoulders. Juju Smith-Schuster coming back. He had a big game earlier this year. He's not putting up big numbers like he used to at one point in his career, but he's still getting involved. Samaje Perine is starting to get much more involved lately for the Chiefs. So you have all of these players, and don't forget about Noah Gray, who I know he had 1 catch against the Steelers, but he has not had any issues catching the football when his number is called, whenever the Chiefs rely on him. So Kansas City's playing much better offensively. The amount of guys that are getting involved. Isaiah Pacheco, there's a fear right now with him and how much time he'll miss. I know people keep asking what's the latest on him. We won't know until Monday. And we don't even know when the Chiefs are going to play their next game. Could be a Saturday, could be a Sunday. We have to wait and see when that schedule is going to be released. I think it's going to be during Sunday Night Football or right after. So we're going to have to wait and see. But once the Chiefs know their schedule, Andy Reid will have his press conference likely on a Monday, and that is probably going to be the first indication we hear about Isaiah Pacheco and how he's doing. The last guy I do want to talk about before I get to the questions here, Trent McDuffie. He's playing much better lately. Statistically, look, he's been playing well all year. He had a little bit of a stretch there where he just didn't look as good against the Buffalo Bills and against the Carolina Panthers. But then he bounced back. He bounced back and is playing much better football lately. But statistically speaking, that is where he has thrived. We have not seen Trent McDuffie do a lot of things statistically speaking. He's never had an interception in his career until just a couple of weeks ago against the Texans, or I'm sorry, against the Browns, rather. So he got his first career interception then got another one on Saturday. So he got finally 2 in the span of 7 days. And then against the Steelers, he forced that fumble. And I can't remember who it was recovered by. I want to say it was Christian Roland Wallace. But someone on the Chiefs defense picked it up to give them their second takeaway of the game. No, it was Deion Bush. Sorry. So or Nick Bolton rather. Deion Bush recovered the special teams fumble. But Trent McDuffie's playing much better lately, statistically, forcing those turnovers there. Last year, I remember he had like 6 or 7 forced fumbles. This year, he's only had 1, and we just saw it against the Steelers. But in terms of cover play, he's played really well in that area. He always has. But man, he's getting much more involved statistically. And again, and the Chiefs defense without Chris Jones, 5 sacks on Russell Wilson. And not that Russell, listen, I know the Steelers offense has not played up to the level they would like for the team to play at, but Russell Wilson, I mean, that guy can definitely get away from edge rushers. He had a hard time with that in this game. Chiefs defense kept getting after him, and they did it without Chris Jones. So what happens when Chris Jones comes back and the quarterback is not as mobile as Russell Wilson? I'm excited to see what that is going to look like in the playoffs. All right, those are all of my thoughts. I am going to go to you guys now. Let's see. Robert has the first question here. What starters are out against Denver? Okay. I've talked about this on social media, and a lot of people are kind of pushing back on this one. So when you look at when the Chiefs last played, it was on Christmas. It is more than likely that their next game is going to be on Saturday, January the 18th. When I say their next game, I'm talking about the starters. Unless they play this upcoming week against the Broncos, or next week, rather. If the Chiefs do hold out Mahomes, Kelsey, and all of the other starters, that is going to be a 24-day break for those guys. The Chiefs have had a similar break before in 2020 when their starters were kept out for 21 days. Week 16, they clinched the number 1 seed. Week 17, the starters did not play. And they did not play until the divisional round. That was against the Cleveland Browns. That was Kareem Hunt's first game back at Arrowhead, but it was as a member of the Cleveland Browns. Just to give you, that was also when Mahomes went out with that head injury as well, and Chad Henne finished things off. Look, I can understand the concern for being out for 24 days, not playing a game for 24 days, but it's not like they're just going to be sitting on the couch doing nothing. I mean, they're still going to be practicing. And look, I get this from a lot of people that the Chiefs are not going to three-peat because they're fatigued because of the fact they keep playing into late January or February every year in the Mahomes era. Okay, well, this 24-day window, doesn't that help alleviate that? I mean, it has to. Because both things cannot be true. You can't sit here and talk to me about rust only to have talked about how the Chiefs are so tired playing into January and February, which, by the way, I don't buy the whole January and February, how that's impacting them now. I mean, teams are tired regardless in December, regardless of when their season ended the year before. So Kansas City is certainly going to have their players ready, regardless how late they keep playing into every season. But I just think at the end of the day, Andy Reid, and by the way, I've seen a few people say this, well, won't Andy Reid try to keep Denver out of the playoffs? No, Andy Reid does not give a shit about any of the other 31 other teams and what their goals are and what they're trying to do. And I say that because in 2013, the Chargers had to beat the Chiefs in week 17. The Chiefs didn't care. They rested all of their starters. Chase Daniel played for Alex Smith in that game and almost won, by the way, in overtime. But yeah, I don't think Andy Reid gives a damn about the Broncos or the Bengals or who else, needs the Chiefs to win or any of those things. Andy Reid doesn't give a damn. He's going to, and look, I'll just say this now. I'd be shocked if Mahomes, Kelsey, and any of the other starters play. You do not want to risk injury. Brandon Staley, one of the reasons he got fired was because he played his starters in a meaningless Week 18 game a couple of years ago, and Mike Williams got injured. Joey Bosa got injured. For no reason, those guys got hurt in a meaningless Week 18 game. So I think they're going to be sitting out in that game. I will ask, is Juwan Taylor going to cost the Chiefs a playoff game with the penalties? He did cost the Chiefs a touchdown last year in that Dolphins game. Didn't matter. It was not him. I think it was Trey Smith who got one of Rice's touchdowns called back against the Ravens on a screenplay, I think it was. So Rice had 2 touchdowns called back last postseason. One of them was Taylor. The other one was Trey Smith. I think that is the biggest concern with Jawan Taylor is because he did have the Chiefs converted on fourth down against the Steelers, but it got called back because of a penalty on Taylor. So yeah, those kinds of things are certainly concerning. I actually asked this on Twitter, and a couple of people pushed back on this one. Let's say DJ Humphries is fully healthy. I would not be opposed if DJ Humphries played right tackle instead of Jawan Taylor. I mean, look, Jawan Taylor that was a terrible contract. Let's just be honest. Brett Veach, he does a really great job as a general manager. He's had some misses. That's one of them right there. And I think Kansas City needs to consider maybe Wanye Morris. I know Morris was not challenged much in that Texans game, but when Taylor went out, Morris looked good at right tackle. Again, a small sample size, but still wasn't playing as bad as Taylor. I had also considered DJ Humphries. So, do you think Pacheco lost his steam once Hunt came back? I don't think so. Pacheco's yard per carry average was not very good last postseason either. Let me look that up real quickly. His numbers recently have not been at their best, and I know CBS Sports pointed this out a week or two ago that he has had the lowest yard per carry average. Yeah, so he ran for 3.7 yards per carry against the Dolphins, 6.5 against the Bills, which was very good, 2.8 against the Ravens, and 3.3 against the 49ers. So his numbers were already going down before this season already in terms of yard per carry numbers there. Played great against the Bengals last year on New Year's Eve when the Chiefs beat the Bengals and won the AFC West, and also had a really good game against the Bengals this year. Then again, everyone can run on the Bengals. It's not that impressive. So I don't know. I'd like to see him improve on that for sure. But that's part of the reason why you have Kareem Hunt and Samaje Perine. I kind of wonder if this is Isaiah Pacheco's last year. I'd hate to see it happen, but he just hasn't played well lately. Yeah, Robert, I do agree. Mike Caliano's been playing really well at left guard. Pro Football Focus gave him like a really bad grade. I think like an 18 grade as a pass blocker. I don't agree with that. I mean, he gave up a couple of pressures, but this is a guy that's never started in his career before until a couple of weeks ago. So for a guy that's had very, very little experience, I think he's playing great. Filling in for an all-pro left guard in Joe Thuney, who's having to shift over at left tackle. And obviously he's doing his thing as one of the better left tackles in the NFL the last couple of weeks. Mahomes sacked 36 times this year. Yeah, 36 times. Only once in the last 3 weeks. And that's against Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. Like, he has played much better. And the offensive line certainly deserves a lot of credit for that. Because I don't think it's a coincidence. With the offensive line playing better lately, again, it's not like they're going up against worms. I mean, these are all-pro, Pro Bowl players. And Mahomes getting the pass blocking he needs, that's given him an opportunity to make the right throws. Why do you think he's not thrown an interception the last 2 games against teams that are in the top 5 in takeaways? That absolutely needs to be noted. Thank you, Mickey. Yeah, feeling better. I'd say I'm about 99% better. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Yeah, they had that. Hopefully there's more of that to come. Hopefully there's more of that to come in the postseason. Harrison, Player of the Year, Harrison Butker? Unless you're talking about a different Harrison. Arrowhead Invitational, some teams still trying to punch their ticket. What do you think, Broncos or Bengals win on Saturday? I'm going with the Broncos. Listen, the Bengals have statistically looked great this year. They can't beat a team with a winning record. They just can't. All of the games the Bengals have won this year are against teams already eliminated from postseason contention. And you're 0-7 against teams with a winning record. I know they've had a couple of really, really close games, 2 against the Ravens, 1 against the Chiefs. And probably another one I'm forgetting against a really good team. But at the end of the day, you didn't win those games. You just didn't. Yeah, the Chargers game, that one was really close as well. Now that I remember that one, that was on Sunday night. I mean, you're not finishing games. The Chiefs are finishing games. That's why I know Bengals fans love to put out this narrative that if the Chiefs had their one score games go the other way and the Bengals had their one score games go the other way, they would have two totally different records. But that's not what's happening. I mean, we can live with that. You can live with that hypothetical world all you want. It's not going to do you any good. But in reality, the Chiefs are finishing those close games. The Bengals are not. And that's going to be a huge reason why the Bengals missed the playoffs. I just don't see them beating the Broncos. The Broncos have a really good front seven, and Cincinnati has really struggled on the offensive line for a long time. So good luck with that. Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people want, Melinda, regardless of if DJ Humphries is healthy or not. Look at Bob putting out all these numbers here, these jersey numbers. Yeah, I mean, those are the guys. That is a really good group of guys to rely on at wide receiver and tight end if you're Patrick Mahomes. And I think that's a huge reason why the Chiefs are going to three-peat. Which Broncos or Bengals would be tougher for Buffalo? I mean, I want to say the Bengals, but they just don't finish games. And then you have to wonder, like, can the Bengals hold, like, can they contain Josh Allen? I don't think they can. I don't think they're well equipped to do that. Let's say the Bengals, by some miracle, make the playoffs. Okay, cool. You retain. So basically, your head coach, your terrible head coach, keeps his job. And then what? What are you going to do in the playoffs? The Bengals are not going to do anything in the playoffs. They might score a lot of points, but they're also going to allow a lot of points. I mean, I just don't know any scenario realistically how the Bengals make it. And if by some miracle they do, how far are they going to go? Because I don't think that team standard is making the playoffs, regardless of how bad this season's been for them. Like the Bengals were one of the favorites before the season. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm excited to see that. And obviously, Wright's going to start the season with a suspension. Here's the other thing, too. Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but what happens if you find a way to keep Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins? Because I think DeAndre Hopkins realizes, look, he passed on the Chiefs. And I know the Chiefs were in a bind with the salary cap because they were trying to figure out Chris Jones and his situation. But what happens if you find a way to keep Hopkins and Brown? And they come back with Worthy and maybe Juju if you find a way to keep him to be part of the mix. And then when Rice comes back from his suspension, that's just going to give the offense a boost because he's going to be fresh. I'm excited to see what that's going to look like next year. But until then, Chiefs do have some things to take care of. Okay, sorry about that. Let's see. Who's got the next question here or the next comment? Afraid says Chiefs have the players to have a well-balanced offensive tech. Yeah, that's a good word. Balance. Certainly a balance. And yeah, they're certainly executing more these last two games. And again, it's not like they're going up against the Raiders or the Jaguars, teams that don't have a good defense. They face two really good defenses, and maybe they see them again in a couple of weeks. Who knows? I mean, those are two very good defenses the Chiefs just went up against. If you're a Chiefs fan, you have to feel really, really good about. No, I don't think so, Gary. I think he's done. Yeah, he certainly provided a nice boost this year on the offensive end that the Chiefs really needed during a time when they were dealing with all of those injuries. So he certainly made a difference this year. He's not putting up big numbers like he used to, but this year he's certainly given the Chiefs a boost when they really needed it. Will Kareem Hunt and P. Ryan be asked to run enough to keep the pass game going? And possibly. Look, if you are the Chiefs, you have a lot of options in the playoffs. We already mentioned the wide receivers: Worthy, Hollywood, Hopkins, Juju. Watson can be reliable at times. At tight end, you have Kelsey and Gray. Running back, you have Kareem Hunt, Samaje Perine, maybe Isaiah Pacheco. We still don't know the severity of that rib injury quite yet, but you have a lot of options here. Here's one name. I would not rule out Carson Steele either. He might get involved a little bit on those short yardage situations. I think Kareem Hunt's the more pertinent guy against the Texans, the Chiefs on 3rd and short and on 4th and short, failing miserably with Isaiah Pacheco. Well, then they try it again on 3rd and short. And who do they use? Kareem Hunt. They did it last week too against the Steelers. I say last week, but you guys know what I mean. So they're certainly looking better when they use Kareem Hunt in those short yard situations. I know earlier in the year they were using Carson Steele for those same situations. So I'd like to see Steele back. We haven't seen much of him. I mean, he's playing, but not getting a lot of touches. That's for sure. Yeah, those turnovers have certainly gone up lately, Timothy. That has been another big difference maker. Yeah, a lot of people are showing love to that defense right now. Bob, I've said this before and I'll say it again. I disagree. I actually think the Chiefs defense played well against Buffalo. Now, they allowed 30 points, but why did they allow 30 points? The score was 16-14 at halftime. The same exact score going into the fourth quarter. Kansas City's defense was getting stops in that third quarter. They started the game forcing a 3 and out, or the second half, forcing a 3 and out, but the Chiefs then went 3 and out. Buffalo had a 6-play drive. Then the Chiefs answered with a 6-play drive. So Kansas City, I mean, the defense got stops in that game, but the offense couldn't take advantage of that. And the defense got tired of that, and Buffalo took advantage, plain and simple. Do you think we should keep our offensive line for the same for the playoffs without Humphreys? If it's working for now, yeah, Jamie, absolutely. Do I think they should play in the first quarter against the Broncos? I don't know, man. Look, Hollywood got injured on the first snap of a preseason game. I just don't want to risk anything. I really don't. I have no interest. I don't need to see. I'm glad Hollywood played these 2 games, because if his first game back was going to be the playoff game, I would have been a little concerned. I would have said, look, Mahomes and Hollywood have never played together. I mean, they've done well in practices, but in a game, we only saw just 1 snap, and that was a preseason game. So I'm glad they at least got these 2 games together to kind of get a feel for each other on the field. I don't need to see any of those guys in this game. I just don't. Yeah, Rick says 24 days is too long. Yeah, I don't know, man. I just, yeah, I get it. But man, I just don't want to risk injury. Because here's my thing. Let's say the Chiefs give them one drive only, and someone gets hurt. Dude, Andy Reid's going to get crucified for it. I know the Chiefs don't make their decisions based on what the public says. I personally would be shocked if we see the starters, even for a drive. And look, I'll be honest with you, even if it is just one drive, I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be nervous watching that. I don't even give a shit. Like, I would love it if Mahomes just threw an interception on that first drive. I don't need to see Mahomes do anything. I really don't. I want him off the field real fast. I have no interest in seeing any of the guys. And again, the whole rest versus again, it's not like they're going to be sitting on the couch eating chips. I mean, not to be silly, but I'm serious. Like, it's not like they're just going to be sitting out and not doing anything. They're still going to be practicing. Maybe not as many reps in the upcoming game against the Broncos, but they'll still be physically, kept in shape there. It's not the off season. My guess would be the Steelers. That is my prediction. I think the Steelers are going to be the team that comes to Arrowhead for the first playoff game. I appreciate that, Mickey. Yes, if you guys could, that would help a lot. Um, and certainly the numbers keep going up with the podcast, the live streams, all of that stuff. So thank you guys so much. Especially Mahomes, I think they should put them in the game and have a safe script of play, screen passes, handoffs, short passes. I don't know, man. I I disagree. I'm surprised the number of people that want to see the starters. And I get the reasoning. I'm not dismissing it at all. I just don't want to risk anything. That's where I'm coming from. Melody, what's up? Melody says O-line did their job. Yeah, they're playing way better lately. Way better. And I think that shift has certainly helped. Do I think Butker is off his game? No. I've seen a lot of people say that. I mean, listen, he missed a short field goal because the unit was just rushing onto the field. And then the other one, he missed a really long PAT. Like, you know, I can deal with those things. Butker has been wildly consistent. And by the way, he got more involved on kickoffs recently, so I think that's a good sign that he's okay. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like Mahomes against the Steelers, I actually was concerned that in one of these two games, or even both of them, I thought the Chiefs were going to have at least one turnover. Didn't have a single one. Haven't had a single turnover during this 6-game winning streak, which is impressive. I said this earlier, but for those who came in late, you know how difficult that is to go 6 games in a row to not commit a turnover? That is very difficult to do. I hope so. I mean, I would love to have Pacheco, and I know his numbers have not been great, but if you're splitting time with the other running backs, hey, that's fine with me. I would like to see the Chiefs get their running backs more involved in the passing game. Kareem Hunt was heavily involved against the Broncos through the air. Pacheco is really good in the passing game. Pirine, Hunt. I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see more of that. The Bengals are the Dolphins of the North. I 100% agree with you, Timothy. The Dolphins, remember last year, they were putting up 60 or 70 on the Broncos, and they're putting up all these points. Dude, they could not beat a team with a winning record until like around this time last year against the Cowboys. Like people keep talking about the the Dolphins and how they went into the cold against Arrowhead, and that's why no, you didn't lose because of the weather. You lost because you can't compete against a good football team. And they took advantage of an easy schedule, and I'm not shaming that. You can only play who's on your schedule. Go beat who's on your schedule. I don't care if they're all bad teams. Go win those games. You should take advantage of that. But when it comes to playing against good football teams, don't give me the bullshit about weather. Like this is what Eagles fans and some of their players did with the field. Oh, the field was slippery. Everyone was playing on that field. You were not the only one. Oh, but the Eagles and their bull rush. What the hell does that even mean? All those excuses. It's like, what does that mean? Oh, the bull rush. They couldn't do the bull rush. So Kansas City doesn't do that either? Come on. Exactly. I mean, I do think the Bengals are tougher. I agree. But they're not closing these games. And I don't know what the stats are exactly, but I think it was I can't remember who it was. Someone pointed out like Joe Burrow not coming through in situational games or situational moments. Yeah, that's like he threw a pick against the Ravens the first time they played. Couldn't close out the game the second time. And I know there were some missed penalties with the face masks and all, but it should not come down to that. One play does not decide a game. Yeah, that's huge, Matthew. I agree with you. And again, those are three really good defenses. The last two specifically are playoff teams, and they're in the top 5 in takeaways. So that is huge. Yeah, and I get that. That was kind of the case with New England now. What are your thoughts about the speculation of Hill coming back? I look, I've said this before. I'll say it again. Um, Tyreek Hill is at a very interesting stage in his life where he has a lot of kids. Okay. It's not my place to talk about it, but you guys all know the situation. I don't have kids, but I have friends who have kids, and kids are not cheap. They are very, very expensive. Okay. They are very expensive. So he's not coming to Kansas City to play on a cheap deal. He's just not. Because here's the other thing. If you're going to, like, if you're Tyreek Hill and you're going to leave Miami, you have to account for all these kids and all the baby mamas. Like, what are they going to do? Are you going to be a remote father for 11, 12, 13 children? And are you going to play for a smaller price? Like, listen, if I'm Tyreek Hill, I don't give a shit about winning another Super Bowl in my life ever again. I need a shit ton of money to take care of those kids for life. I think, some people know this. There are a lot of football players that honestly don't do much after their playing careers. And if they made a lot of money and if they're smart with their money afterwards, great. You probably don't need to work another day in your life. Tyreek Hill needs to get as much money as and he just got paid. He already redid his deal with the Dolphins and got more money. So I don't put any. I know some. There's a betting site, Bovada, whatever it's called. They're favoring the Chiefs to get Tyreek Hill next year. I don't know, man. I'm not. I don't subscribe to that. And by the way, props to the Browns or the Deshaun Watson agreeing to that restructured deal. One of the worst contracts in NFL history. Originally I did say it's Detroit, but they have so many injuries on the defensive end. I've been a big fan of the Eagles for a while. I do think we get a Super Bowl 57 rematch. And I would love to see the Chiefs run defense against Saquon Barkley. That would be a really fun test for the Chiefs defense. Because there are some people, including me, who think Barkley is the MVP, though recently I don't know if he's the front runner. People think it's between Allen and Jackson. So I don't know. I still think Barkley is in the picture for the MVP, but that's someone that I'd love to see the Chiefs go up against. Yeah, I'd like to see Steele get involved on those short yardage situations for sure. Yeah, Joe Tooney is a Swiss Army knife, man. He can do it all. Oh boy. I mean, he's been a gift. I remember some people talking about how Tooney was going to be a casualty cut for the Chiefs. And I could not have disagreed. Like, why? That guy's playing great. I don't care how much money he's making, as long as he's one of the best interior offensive linemen in the NFL. The guy looks like he's played left tackle for 10 years. That's how damn good he is. No starters. Okay, now I'm getting some people agreeing with me finally on the whole starter thing. Yeah, I just don't want to see any. I just don't want to risk any injuries. Now, if there are injuries on that offensive line, you might have to start seeing some of the starters. I remember last year, I think Creed Humphrey was playing guard a little bit last year. There was an injury on the offensive line last year in week 18, and a couple of those starters had to come in and play. So you have a couple of those. By the way, Melody, I've been meaning to text you because we got to discuss this on Farscast. Have you guys seen the Chiefsaholic documentary on Prime? I mean, listen, I'm not going to give anything away. But the story with Chiefsaholic or Xavier, whatever you want to call him, it's quite a story. It's quite a story with him. But they interviewed some fans in the documentary, and there's this woman who, in the trailer, she literally calls him God or compares him to God. And then later in the documentary, when Chiefsaholic cuts off his ankle monitor and runs away, they get to that part of the story, and they get answers from the fans they interviewed, and the same woman, she acknowledges he did something bad, but then she makes a comment and says, "I'm glad he's free." What? Look, you got picked to talk about Chiefsaholic on a documentary. I seriously could not imagine agreeing to be on camera for a documentary that you know a lot of people are going to watch because of the magnitude of the story, and you're like one level away from condoning his actions. I don't listen. It's one thing if you're on Twitter saying free Chiefsaholic, he did nothing wrong, and all other weird stuff. But if you want to go on camera in a documentary and defend him, essentially, like, I'm sorry, you're a weirdo and you need to be investigated. I have a lot of questions about that person. By the way, that person got a lot of shit from a lot of people. They ended up changing their entire social media, the name, their picture, everything. Like, it's almost like you don't even recognize that person. And I don't blame them. After the things you said on camera in a documentary that a lot of people are watching, yeah, you deserve a lot of shit for that. I mean, I'm not agreeing with death threats or any of those things, but for criticism, yeah, you deserve all of that. Matthew, I agree with you. Jaden Hicks is playing really, really well. Brett Veach did a press conference right before the season, and he said he got a text from Tyrann Mathieu saying that Tyrann Mathieu compared Jaden Hicks to himself. And I think you're seeing that with the hard hitting, where he's been. I got a big laugh when he taunted George Pickens. That was funny. I'm sorry. That was just hilarious. But you can't be doing that. You just can't. That could cost you, and you never know. But man, Jaden Hicks is playing some damn good football. That dude is honestly, I think, a secret weapon for your defense going into the playoffs. This rookie class is slowly starting to look good. Yeah, again, like the practice, they'll be practicing. It's not like they're just going to watch from the sidelines. For the team to be out for a month with no competition, that's not good. Same thing happened to the Ravens last year. Okay, I know what you're talking about, Muhammad, or Mahmoud. Sorry, I hope I got your name right the second time. Yeah, the Ravens had a situation where they rested their starters in week 17, had the bye week, and then they looked bad. But the Chiefs have been here before. They had a 21-day break before. This one's a little longer because they played on a Wednesday for the second of last week. But I just don't want to risk the injury. And listen, I don't think Andy Reid is going to let them be out of shape or not be, physically ready. I just would be surprised if you see them this not this weekend, but the next weekend. Here's my spin on the Denver game. Play these guys who need playing time. Backup QB, offensive tackles, defense. I'd love to see DJ Humphries if he's cleared. I'd love to see if he can show anything to prove that he can hold his own at left tackle and move Tooney back to guard. That would be nice. Though, if it's not broken, don't fix it. I'm fine with that as well. I would not be opposed if he played right tackle either. But I'll let the Chiefs figure that out. Yeah. 14. Is that what it is? Okay, my bad. Listen, man, Tyreek Hill's got game. That dude's got. I can't hit that level. I mean, I'm not an NFL player, so I think that's one way to attract the ladies. But yeah, a lot of ladies that are certainly attracted to him, regardless of how many kids he had previously. Not my place to talk though. Do we have a third string? Yeah, Chris Oladokin. He's on the practice squad. They'll probably put him for standard elevation for one game. Yeah, that's just that was a really wild story. DeAndre Hopkins might be that guy then, Doug, because I know Chris Jones had that last year. I know Hopkins has something in his contract involving certain percentage of snaps. I would prefer he does not play. See, this is the thing. Like, everybody was confused because people were asking, like, why are you not flying to the games? And that's a big part of the story. Um, and again, like he put $80,000 on the Chiefs to beat the Bills and lost. Dude, I put like $5-10 on these games on whenever I bet on games. And when I lose, I'm like, ah shit. This guy lost 80 grand on one game. I mean, it confused a lot of people. People were like, how are you doing this? Because the more he bragged about his massive bets, and not all of them were public, the more questions people had. Yeah, Chiefs Holic's quite a character, man. Yeah, it's on Prime, Timothy. It's on Prime. Yeah, and they kind of highlighted this in the past with the super fans. Dude, we have a weird super fan community. We really do. X Factor and Red Extreme. And then Pat McAfee once highlighted Helmet Man. I did not know about Helmet Man until McAfee. And I don't know. I guess McAfee had some things factually incorrect there. I don't know. But because here's my thing with that. I've said this before. Like, were you looking to get attention? Were you looking to make friends? Were you trying to get women to pay attention to you? Like, I don't know, man. Like, that guy was literally playing Grand Theft Auto 5 in real life. For those who don't know, Grand Theft Auto 5 revolves around heists and robberies. It's like, if I could ask him one question, I would have been like, dude, what was the end game for you? Like, what? How does your story conclude? Assuming you found a way to keep getting away with this, like, I don't know, man. That was just weird. Like, there's nothing. I want to be clear. Like, there's nothing funny about armed robbery. Like, not at all. But when you did it so you can afford front row seats and to bet on these games, put a bunch of money on them. I mean, you can't help but chuckle. Like, really? Yeah, I like to see Kingsley Suamataia as well, Bob. I agree with you. I'd love to know what he's learned. Like, is that a guy you're going to keep around for the future, long term? Or is that someone who you're going to cut maybe sooner than you would like? Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Corey. I dated a single mom once. No disrespect to any single parents out there. It's just, listen, dating one is not easy. Really not. Did it once, and once was enough for me. That would not shock me. See, that lady, my family and I actually sat next to her once. This was a long, long time ago. Super, super nice lady. Um, I think I was in middle school when we sat next to them for a game, and her kids were on the video board a lot because they always had signs and puppets, boxing puppets, whatever. And I remember at one point I was just like putting my hands up because I was cheering, and I don't know, someone in her family was putting my hand down just so I guess my hand was in the way of her getting a picture of the video board. I don't know how that's possible when there are two video boards at the stadium. And we were kind of sitting close to the 50-yard line. Dude, people right behind him, right behind me and the guy, they all kind of got in his face like, dude, do not touch a kid. That, like, he's not your kid. I mean, I wasn't like offended looking back, I can understand. Like, if I had a kid and someone did that, like, he's just cheering, he's putting his hands up. And I think there's also a thing too. Like, I'm sure they're on TV on the video board every single game. Like, you don't need a picture every single game. If someone put their hand up because they're cheering, just fucking deal with it. Like, come on. Mickey says, "Let me win Mega Millions tonight, and we will have one heck of a tail." Dude, the Mega Millions is at an all-time high, isn't it, or something close to that? By the way, the boxing lady, she had a hilarious sign, where she had a sign that said, "What did it say? I was not the getaway driver," or something like that. When the news came out about Chiefsaholic, but yeah, she is like the only sane super fan out there. By the way, I was pissed in the documentary. They had one fan on that they interviewed. They did not do justice for her. Like, she actually got barbecue for the bank that dealt with that robbery. They didn't mention it once in the documentary. Like, at least, highlight the good part of the Chiefs super fans. Come on. Oh, that's true, Melody. Damn it, I'm not putting that on the screen, Timothy, but just know I see your comment. Okay, if we're talking about these things, I think that is my cue to wrap things up here. Hey, we talked about a lot of things here. I think the Chiefs are in a much better place now. We'll see what they do with the starters. I just don't want to risk anything. I can understand everyone's the whole Russ conversation, but the Chiefs have been there before with a 21-day window. So I think, if I had to bet on it, I would say Andy Reid will not play any of the starters in the game against the Broncos. And again, for those who are saying, "Oh, Andy should try to not let the Broncos get in," Andy does not give a shit about that, not one bit. So, don't think the Chiefs care just because they're a division rival. Like, priority number one is health for your own team. You lose to the Broncos, fine. You lose to the Broncos. Like, you can't do anything about it. And listen, it's not like Broncos fans and the organization is going to brag about this one. You played the backups. I remember the Chargers beat the Chiefs backups before. Like, and they weren't bragging about it either. In fact, they fired their coach after doing that once. So that's not really, everyone knows it's going to be a preseason field type of game for the Chiefs. Broncos might be playing for something. We don't know. If they win tomorrow, I think we'll see a lot of backups on the field from both teams. So we'll see how that game will be managed. All right, guys, I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you for all your patience. I know I have not been doing a lot of live streams. I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm like 90% better. So thank you all for your patience. I might chime in and do a live stream on a Sunday, even though we don't have a game to follow with the Chiefs. But I might chime in because I'm sure there'll be some things to react to. Obviously, a lot of people will be keeping an eye on the Buffalo game. Let me just mention one quick thing. It would be very pertinent for Buffalo to lose if the Jets could find a way to win, because if the Bills lose this game, they are going to be forced to play their starters in weeks 18 just to secure the number 2 seed. If the Ravens won, so I think they're good there. So if the Bills win, then they're going to rest their starters in week 18, 100%. So if the Jets win, boy, that would be huge, because then the Bills would be forced to play their starters in week 18, and they don't get to have the de facto bye like the Chiefs did last year in week 18. So I'd be very curious to see what happens. I don't expect it. I think the Bills are going to blow them out, but that's why you play the game. I thought the Bills would have blown out the Patriots, and that one was very, very close. So we'll see how that all goes. Okay, guys, I'm Farzin Vasugian. Thank you all for joining me for this Red Friday live chat. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year's to all of you guys. I will talk to you all later. Take care.